Okay, so welcome everybody to the Speakers Practice, and my name's Hazel Theocharous, and I'm the owner of Expert VA, and what that means is I'm a small business support specialist. So I work with businesses across the board, either from systemising their businesses and creating operations manuals and that sort of thing, or taking away some of their admin and behind the scenes work so that I can actually, they can free up their time and they'll have greater business growth. I've been doing it for 6 years. I've got 2 small boys, and now this is my year of monetising and making sure that all my hard-earned work and everything is working well for me. So webinars is something that I've been helping others do, and I've also been doing them a little bit towards the end of last year, and I've been researching to find the right way to do it. And I also have a radio program, which Adrian's been on, which is all about small business, and that's also helped me get the confidence to actually do a webinar, because now that I feel like I'm confident behind the radio, I can do anything. But something that's completely and utterly only happened in really the last 7 months, so it's very exciting. So webinars are all about these 5 things, the 5 Ps. So planning, the process, practice, polish, and present. So those are the 5 things that the steps that I've worked through in everything that I've done in my webinars, and what I've got other people to do as well. I mean, basically webinars are about connecting online for whatever reason. Everybody has a different reason, so we've heard about that already. So basically, what is a webinar? Well, it's a seminar online in a nutshell, but it's also called an online workshop, an interactive conference. It's basically bringing the 2 words web and seminar together. There are so many reasons for why you would use one. I mean, you can connect with anyone wherever they are in the world. I've had a couple of people join in to a recent webinar, one from the UK and one from Canada, completely and utterly not expected. And I went, oh my gosh, it's gone international. But that's the beauty of a webinar. Seminars, you're kind of stuck. Whoever is available in that specific time slot can attend. Everybody else can't. Whereas a webinar, you can communicate with anybody. So, firstly, you want to ask yourself, why do you want to do a webinar? Now, we've already discussed that a little bit with people, but basically, it's a great way to get information to anybody quickly. You've got a new product, you've got a new service, you've got your own computer and equipment, so you don't actually have to hire a room, do catering, you don't have to do any of that. You just be interactive. One of the best things is the interactive ability to sit at your computer and suddenly tell 15, 20, 100 people what you want to tell them in 30 minutes, an hour, depends how long you want to do it. My suggestion in the first instance is to do it for half an hour, because then you're actually learning yourself as you're going. If you do it for longer, you may run out of material and then you're stuck. So if you look at all those things first and see why. Training is a very big one. One of the webinars I did was a how to use Excel. And I thought, well, nobody ever wants to know about Excel. But when I asked people, they said, oh, we don't know how to use it. And yet we want to use it because we've got spreadsheets and we've got this, and we don't want a database, but we want to be able to input information. And so I just did a how to use Excel webinar, and I had 20 people. So training is a very big factor on what you can use it for. And also, you'll also have a presentation, just the same as Adrian uses the Speakers Practice videos on YouTube or websites. You will have your presentation to use over and over again. You can even package it up and sell it. So it can be something that's ongoing for you as a revenue stream, even after you've finished that one webinar. So, now, in the webinars, there's some amazing things you can use, and I don't know if everybody's aware of them. Different platforms allow you to do different things, but great things to put on are polls and surveys, which you can put in through the whole presentation, where people have to be interactive and say, If you're asking about a product that you want to get some feedback on that you know they've used, you can use that sort of thing. There's the text chat where they can put their text and they can ask questions. Always check that, because that's a very big factor. You need to keep checking if somebody is making a comment. If someone is, right at the beginning, you need to make them aware that you're either going to answer the questions throughout the whole webinar or right at the very end. So, because you might want to be in a flow and you don't want to have questions in between. The other thing that you could have and probably should have is somebody facilitating your whole webinar. So they're working with you. So you've got somebody who is working behind the scenes. If somebody drops out, their phone drops out if they're ringing in, or their internet goes down and they lose then you've got someone behind the scenes helping out while you're actually doing a presentation, because the last thing you want is to stop and say, oh my gosh, and then lose your train of thought. So
just ask a question.
Yep.
There. Does that person have to be sitting next to you, or can
No.
they
can be somewhere else.
Somewhere else.
Yeah, they can be somewhere else. They just log in and they become like the facilitator. Yeah. The other great thing is that you can click through to other web content. So say, for example, you're doing a webinar and you want to advertise a product that doesn't belong to you, but you've just experienced it, it's fantastic, and you want to promote that as well. Then you go through and you just have the web content, and you can actually click through to somewhere else on the web and introduce somebody to that. So that's something that is really important as well if there's something you want to introduce. Obviously recording it, making sure that you're recording every presentation that you do, because someone I knew did a webinar and they didn't push a button and it didn't get recorded, and the whole half an hour of what they could have used again wasn't there. So, and making sure that you do your slideshow presentations in such a way that you know them back to front. So now the first thing is plan. So we've already discussed here why you want to hold a webinar, but there are so many reasons. So you need to think about them, and it might change. You might think to yourself, okay, I want to provide clients with some new product information, and the next time you do it, or 6 months down the track, you actually want to earn some money from it. So there's so many reasons why you might hold a webinar. Now, if you're Toastmasters, like you said, you want to get people involved in, the speakers knowing they can use it, but also other people involved. It's probably, you sort of saying to somebody, okay, I'm going to do a webinar because I want it to be interactive and I want people to realise how wonderful Toastmasters is, and they don't know about Toastmasters and exactly what we do. I mean, personally, I know Toastmasters, but I don't know what they do. So a webinar about that would be great because I have no idea. So, but there are so many reasons. One of the other things that one of my clients did the other day was they had tried a service. They tried a backup online, I think it was Carbonite, and they said, right, we know our clients could use this service, so we want to do a webinar on it. And they did a webinar based solely on why people should back up their data, and because they'd used Carbonite, they really pushed it. And then they sent a link afterwards to Carbonite of the video, of the presentation they'd done, and Carbonite have now shared it on their website. So now there's like a link happening backwards and forwards. So there are so many ways to use a webinar, not just to promote yourself, you can promote other things as well. So that to me gives you a kind of an outline of what you would use it for. Marketing your business is obviously something we all want to do. We all want to grow it. But I always think to myself, if you want to grow your business, one of the biggest ways is to kind of cross-promote and not just constantly say, this is my business, I want to do this, I want to do that, and you cross-promote. You always give and then you get back. That's So in the planning stage still, you set your date, the time and the budget. So it's very hard to know when a good time is, and to have a webinar. Who's going to listen? Who's going to tune in? Is it better during the day? Is it better at night? What is your market? So what you need to ask sometimes is your clients. Is your webinar going to go to your clients, or are they going to be part of it? Then go to them, do a survey and say, right, if we were to hold a webinar, give us a time. What time frame would work better? 10 o'clock on a Friday morning? or 7:30 on a Monday night. Because it's got you want attendees. So if you get kind of, across maybe between, 20 to 30, as many as you can, sort of saying to them, okay, we want to do this, but we need your feedback because we want you to attend. So you really need to work that out. Then you need to look at the date. Now, in a webinar situation, I would suggest that you need to book something and make it sort of 6 weeks after you've started to make the plan that you want to do one, say at least 6 weeks out. Because there's a lot of planning, there's lots of things you need to do. So, and also when you do it, make sure that at least 3 days before your webinar, you keep times free. The reason for that we'll get through later, but it's basically to finish practicing, polishing, contacting, doing all the things that you need to do before the webinar. So that's very important, in my opinion, to make sure that the time and the date suit you and suit others, because you do not want someone not turning up. Then what you need to do is say, right, there are so many webinar platforms and programs out there, which one do I use? Do you want it to be free? Do you want a certain amount of people to come? Are you catering for 100 people, or you're actually catering for 10 or 15? So some of them are free, but you need to see what they include. My opinion to that would be that the first at least 5 or 10, you should do it at the freebie, because you're not going to get 100 probably at the first 5 or 10 webinars. So you need to kind of work at the low cost or free, and don't go for a high cost, because it's going to waste your money. So,
which ones are free?
Sorry?
Which ones are free?
Well, basically there's join.me, that's one. There's a few, I've got a list of them coming up. The other thing that you need to do is work out, will it be free? The webinar that you are providing to somebody, is it going to be free? So, yeah, giving something away free, I usually consider the first one should probably be free. Because if you're trying to get the people to come. So you should say to them, the first webinar is free. But then you've got to work out a cost for any future ones that will suit you. Because, for example, you've got, if you're catering to business clients, a lot of them will expect to pay something. So it might be $10, it might be 25. Whatever you think your value is in the content, and also what you feel is your bottom line. Because although the webinar might be free, although you don't have to move anywhere and do any catering, it's your time. So like if your charge out rate is $200 an hour and you're going to be doing a webinar for $200, you're not going to charge somebody that, but you need to create a pro rata to work out what you're happy with and what someone will pay. And that's again where you can survey someone. You can survey a handful of people and say, right, if I was to do this webinar, how much would you charge? Would you be prepared to pay? So you've got to really work out if you want to do them free as just an information service, or whether you want to do them to create money for yourself. And these are some of the possible webinar platforms which have a free element. So can you see all those? And there seems to be more and more coming on the market, because when I last looked a while ago, it was like, and so Bright Talk is something I'd never heard of. And this join.me I hadn't heard of, but I had a look at them. And as you were saying before, what you need to do is work out what layout you like, whether you like the fact that it's easy, one part's easy to use and the other part's not, and can you have a certain amount of people. There's so many things that people need to work out in their own business or whatever. So there's a lot, and there are more, but you could go on and on and on and on. So now the process. Okay, now this is where you come in and you say, right, now I'm going to plan my content. Now I've got to get on with my content. So you've decided you're going to do a webinar, you've looked up the time, the date, the budget. So then you say, okay, what is my topic? I mean, Adrienne says she's doing a webinar for accountants. You need to think about, okay, what is my actual topic going to be about? Once you've thought about it, it might be, you know, I've got one coming up which is about time management. It might be another one that sort of says, you know, how to present in front of 1,000 people. You know, something like that. Then get a piece of paper and a pen, and it sounds really old-fashioned, but it's probably the easiest way to make mind maps and things like that, and just start scribbling. Just write ideas. Write as many things as you can think of about the topic that you've chosen. It may be that some of them will be absolutely irrelevant, and other ones will, you know, will actually come and form part of the webinar. My thing is, don't stop until your brain is stopped. So as soon as you keep writing, as soon as your brain runs out of completely any more ideas, stop. Because you've obviously pulled down as many as you can at that point. Then what you need to do is pull together everything. So all of this takes time. I mean, it sounds very simple and easy, but everything will take time. This process will probably take you maybe a day, something like that. And what you need to do is say to yourself, okay, I've collated all this stuff, now I'm going to put it in logical order. What order do I want to tell people things in? Do all that, and then this becomes the basis of your webinar. It won't be the final one, but it's basically where you're at. So, okay, now what we do is say, right, you want a PowerPoint, you want a logo, you want to look at your background colour, anything that you want to do that makes it yours and personal. Sometimes the lighter the image for webinars, the better. So you don't want dark colours or anything else. And then look for images that may be related to what you're doing, because people are visual. I remember on my radio, for example, and I was told that males half of it goes out of their head on radio because they don't hear it. They want you to start visualising everything. So they want you to just make a story before you head into anything else. I don't know, is that right, David?
Visuals good.
Yeah. I mean, that's what they said, you know. So if you make a story with images, as well as as well as you with text and stuff on your webinar, you will incorporate the males as much as the females. Because you know, a lot of us are visual as well, but we need to have images. And then pull together everything on the relevant slides. So, and bullet point everything, because what you've got is a document beside you which will have more information. So you will have the information next to you, but you don't want to overdo it with the people that are doing their webinar. Okay, where are you going to market? Who are you going to market to? The database that you've got. Everybody's got a database, whether they realise it or not. With your clients, try and email them directly and invite them rather than doing it through your newsletter. Why would you do that? I mean, if you've got thousands, maybe you don't want to do it, but generally not everybody's got 1,000 clients. Email them, invite them, say we've got this webinar coming up, we would really love you to attend. The personal touch will help. Everybody's on social media, use it. So don't just put it on Facebook and then it'll automatically go onto Twitter, or don't just put it on LinkedIn and it'll automatically go to Twitter. Put it through Twitter on its own as well. Sometimes it's left with Twitter. People just use it to just filter through from whatever you've put on the other social media. Don't do it. The other thing that's really good as well is Pinterest. Put a photo, like an image of what you're going to be talking about in your webinar, promote it on Pinterest. There's so many more people. Pinterest, P-I-N-T-E-R-E-S-T.
It's just interest with a P in front of it.
Yeah.
Alright, got it.
Are you on that, David?
No, I'm not.
It's a really good one.
Good.
It's an image-based one, but it's really, people are using it a lot more.
Yeah.
So, the other thing to do is create a video about your webinar. Sounds silly, but put it on YouTube. Because the more that you promote what you're doing, the more people will come. The other thing is put your webinar on things like Eventbrite. So on the event-based websites, there's a lot of them out there. You can put them on for free, doesn't cost anything. But the more that you know about it, or people know about it, the better. There's some ways as well that you can get them through on, if they're related and you're not, if they're not for profit or they're free for a business that, well, maybe Toastmasters might fit into that, I'm not sure, but you could probably find on the local council websites, government event websites, lots of things like that, advertise a lot of webinars. They're becoming more and more and more. So that's something you could think about, going to the local council or something. And then go to your clients and your associates and say, okay, I've got this webinar coming up. Can I put it on your newsletter? Can I advertise it? Even if they said to you, okay, well, can we charge you $10 for putting it on? It's $10, it's probably well spent, because it's now going to hit another 400 to 600 people that you wouldn't have got otherwise. So it's like getting the whole world out there about your webinar. And if you don't ask, you don't get. That's my philosophy. You have to go out to somebody and say, can you do this for me? And they might say, I'll do it for free. They might say, when you send your next newsletter out, can you do this for me? And then it's like a big contra thing. So anywhere and everywhere that you can do it, approach the local paper. If you think it's relevant to a local target area, approach them and say, look, I've got this webinar coming up, can you promote it for me? Ask the local radio. Just ask them. If you don't ask, you don't get. So there's usually a program on the community radio stations that will help do that. I mean, for example, I get people contacting me saying, I've got an event coming up, can you promote it? And I'm happy to if it relates to business. So, now, practicing your webinar. So, you've set the time, you've set the date, you've set the topic, you've set the content. Now you go, okay, got it all. It's sitting there in front of me, what do I do? So now you need to spend at least 15 minutes a day going through your webinar, because 15 minutes a day sounds a lot, but in actual fact, you are practicing it. You need to make it so that it just flows. So when you're getting all these attendees sitting there on their computers around the world or wherever it is, you actually need to just flow. And sit in a quiet area and practice it. So, I've got 2 children, there's no way I could practice it with them hanging around and making a noise. So, and then if you've set yourself 6 weeks, once a week, ask somebody to listen to it. Actually say to somebody, your husband or your wife or a colleague or somebody, can you please listen to my webinar? Can you listen to what I'm saying? Can you give me feedback? It's a must, because otherwise you won't really know. And that's one person, so you're probably going to get other comments if you go live with it. But that is a great way to get some feedback. So now we come to polish. So it's like, yeah, got to polish your car, got to polish, just got to get yourself 100%. So as you go through, we've probably already added images and that sort of thing. Add any other images that you may have found. I mean, you've been doing this now for 4 weeks. You might say to yourself, oh my gosh, I found that image, that really fits well with what I'm talking about. I'm going to go back and add it. It's just another page, just do it. Incorporate a quote. People love to hear these different quotes. They love to say, okay, I've got, I found this quote by Albert Einstein and it fits in with what I'm doing and I'm going to put it in. And also it breaks it up a little bit. If you need a break, you need to have, stop talking for a minute, you can actually put something in. And then try and give personal examples, because it makes you personalised with your audience. Sometimes you can just I've been at a webinar recently and I just went, oh, please. Like it was too much, because it was just factual all the time. There was nothing extra added. Whereas I think if you can add something of you, not everywhere, but through it, just a little bit, then it makes it more personal and people will relate to you. I think there's not enough of everybody relating to each other. They just sort of sign in, do what they got to do, and then they go off. Whereas it doesn't make for a trusting relationship or something that might go further afterwards. Now, in the 3 days going up to the webinar, so we've now done all of these things. What you need to do is check your attendee list. See who's attending. Send out the reminders if not enough people have signed up or whatever. Think to yourself, okay, do I need to follow up anyone else? if there is a cost involved, make sure people are paid. You know, you put on events on Facebook, for example, and 5 people or 10 people say they're attending, but they actually haven't gone through to actually register. So you need to think about, you've got to cover your costs or whatever you've said, you need to make sure you follow up. Yep, practice your webinar again. It sounds silly and you've had enough of it, but it's just probably one more time. Now you've got to make sure as well that your headphones, audio, laptop, everything, make sure your internet connection's paid, all those sort of things that you don't suddenly go down.
Do you need to have headphones and the mic?
Yeah.
Do you need to get
Well, they're
those?
better. Yeah, they're much better to use that because it just is, the whole sound and everything makes it easier to use. So they're not very expensive. And then all your documents that relate to the PowerPoint stuff, have them ready. Have them with tabs, whatever it is that makes it easier for you, have them ready beside you so that when you start, it's there. You've got them all ready. So once you've done all that, you're pretty much ready to present your webinar. So what you need to do is get through to that program early. So don't do it 5 minutes before everybody is supposed to attend. Probably at least half an hour before so that you can check the audio. And there's a little room normally that you can check your microphone, check everything. Make sure the right PowerPoint is uploaded. I actually signed into a webinar probably about 3 months ago and the person had the wrong PowerPoint loaded. So while we were all sitting there, they had to quickly go off and get the right one, which didn't look very professional. And then welcome your guests. Hopefully you don't have, well, I mean it'd be good if you had 100, but if you've got a few guests coming, like attendees, welcome them as they come individually, so they feel like it's you personally introducing them. So it's basically what you do when you webinars. So now you've done all that, enjoy it. You know your stuff, you know your content. Make sure you can see the questions if there's any from the attendees in the little box. And then just go with the flow. And like I said before, if you've got someone facilitating it, it will make it a lot easier. Generally speaking, if you've got a colleague or you've got someone else that can just sit there and just make sure that everything's flowing and it's still recording, and you know if someone does drop out, they can handle it behind the scenes. It's basically, you know, in terms of the presentation. And the last thing, which is something you should do, make sure you've got some giveaway or incentive at the end of the webinar. Some sort of reason for them to approach you for you to work for them or to attend your next webinar. Give them some sort of incentive. And then follow up. So follow up to obtain feedback. Now, you know, some people might give you completely negative feedback and say, you know, we really hated it and blah, blah, blah. And other people will say, wow, it was fantastic. But use the feedback. Don't, you know, that will make your next webinar maybe not even perfect, but it will make it better than the first. So whatever the feedback is, you actually need to follow through. You need to ask them for feedback. And then, so that's basically it, and that's me. And as I said, I've got a time management webinar coming up in March. And yeah, so that's all I need to say. So did you have any questions?
Well, yes, I have one. I'm not sure about the software, and I've been to webinars where the speaker hasn't connected with the facilitator, and I don't know what's happened. I mean, I'm just the guest watching, and I've been able to log in, and I've been able to see something happening, but the software behind is not connecting one of them, and I'm just wondering about the software side.
Yeah, I think every platform is different, so it also depends on which one you're using. Usually what happens is they have all signed in before you. What is supposed to happen is the presenter, the facilitator, and sometimes if the facilitator is in charge of people who drop out, you may also have one that's in charge of the recording. So you may have between 1 and 3 people sitting there before you even get there. That's what's supposed to happen. So they're all sitting there waiting for everybody to attend. If it's not, that means that something behind the scenes has not been clicked or whatever, because normally in a webinar you would have all that set up before anyone else comes. That's why I said getting in half an hour early will make sure that all the bugs are already gone. Like I said, webinars are very hard because they're also tricky because they're all online.
Yes.
So if anything is internet based, it can go wrong. But generally speaking, if you have set it up half an hour before, I went to give a presentation through someone else about 6 months ago, and it was in the US based, and it wouldn't load up through Firefox, and then I had to try and use Chrome, and then something wasn't happening, so it was like I had to clear cache and everything else. So she then, had to put someone else in my place, and then I went the next day.
So is it best to use Internet Explorer?
In normal circumstances, it should work in anything. It should work through Mac, it should work through PC, and it should work through Mozilla Firefox or Chrome. But it does depend, again, on whatever their system is. So like if you're doing a webinar for someone else, which you can do, because a lot of people are calling out for experts to do different things online as well, you can check with them what they say that software is needed, which platform. So there's a lot of things that go into it to make sure that your webinar works. But generally speaking, if you're setting up your webinar, you will know what it's got to use, and you will let the other people know. 9 times out of 10, you have to quickly, as you probably know, upload the webinar software into your computer, ready to be an attendee. So they would only have to do the same thing. It's just registering and logging in. And some of them are quite good because you can phone in as well. So if you can't actually be there, at least you can listen.
As the presenter, do you see different screens to what the audience sees?
Generally. And sometimes that's why a facilitator is good, because they can see the questions and then they can, say such and such asked, and then the presenter then says, okay, that's a great question, and then answer it. So that's why having that other person there can become such an asset for you. Because, you don't have to have it. You can run the whole thing yourself. But the issue is then that you can get carried away and do something else, and then you get into a question, and then what you were doing, in the webinar suddenly disappears because you've just spent 10 minutes answering someone else's question. So, that's why having a facilitator there can then say to people in the background, texting, yeah, great question, we'll ask that at the end. So
that's what I was doing. I was facilitating. I wasn't one of the presenters, as you know. And what I did for testing it for the participants was I had the admin screen on my laptop, and that's where I was running the presentation through. But I logged in through my iPad as well as an attendee, so I could see what was coming up, and I checked the sound on it and made sure that was all working.
Oh, that's a good idea.
That's good.
So I just quickly went out of the room when it started and turned the sound up, and I'm like, yeah, no, I can hear it. It's all good. Everyone was like watching me right now.
And notice she had it in a different room, because otherwise you get feedback.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's trap for young players as well.
So,
well, thank you so much, Hazel.
oh, you're welcome. Have you got another question?
Yeah, I do. You said something earlier about clicking through to content.
Yes.
I didn't exactly realise what you meant there.
Okay, so you know how you got the links at the top of let's just say you want to give somebody a link to a YouTube video. You can have that link on your webinar, so you actually have that link sitting there and you make it like a hyperlink so that you can click on it, and then it'll open up so that everybody that's watching the webinar will be able to see that link on YouTube. Does it?
So like in the PowerPoint presentation you
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. So it'll just open up, and it should open up in everybody's, and that again comes back to how quickly it does it will depend on everybody's system. So when I did something where I clicked through, I had to wait until the facilitator was typing in there saying, you know, is everyone seen it, blah, blah, blah. And then she came back and said, oh, okay, everyone's seen it now. Because some were fast and some were slow and connections weren't particularly great. So you need to have the ability to...
So as a presenter, you've got a separate screen with the facilitator? Is that also on your screen?
You can, but the facilitator normally, that's why it's such a great idea to have somebody else doing it. Mm-hmm. They monitor where you're up, like who's doing what and questions. You can, like I said, you can have it. The presenter can have everything sitting there. But it distracts you by having that box. What you can do is minimise the box so it goes away, so you don't actually have to look at it, so you can just see what everyone else is seeing. Yeah. However, if you were doing it on your own because you didn't have anyone else, you can pull the box down and just, okay, this person's saying this and whatever, and respond to them. But the problem with that is, like I said, you get distracted. So if you've got someone like Kathleen who is, you know, a great facilitator.
I don't know about that.
So the thing which I find with GoToWebinar anyway, because that's the only real platform I've had any experience with, is that as the presenter, so there's some language that GoToWebinar uses, is that you have panelists, and within, and they get a different type of invitation with a different type of link, right, that gives you certain rights to see certain different parts of the control panel, which allows you to show your screen or not, or, you know, have a question or do sort of different sort of things, right? So when you're the presenter, as opposed to, they call it the organizer, so the person who like is organising the event or the facilitator, right, is you're the presenter. When you show your screen, you want everyone to see, you know, to maximise your PowerPoint slide. The problem with that is then you can't see people's questions, because if you have your little question, you know, box showing, it obscures part of your slides. So that's why you need your organiser sort of saying, hey, you know, George just asked this really interesting question. Now you've got more experience than me because you know something more than I do.
Yeah, I have a question mark around that, because the way that it appeared, this is why I had it running on my iPad as well, so I could see the participant screen. The way that it appeared on my iPad was that even though that dialogue box was showing on my screen as organiser, it was not showing for me as a participant. So they couldn't see that.
So as the organiser's control panel, probably won't be shown, but what about the presenters?
But that's the thing, I had the way that I did it, because it wasn't your traditional webinar, you sit down and you have the audio running through the computer. The audio was running through the sound system because the presenter was over there presenting and speaking to a live audience. And I was running the PowerPoint slides and the audio through my PC. So the PowerPoint slides on my screen were what were being shared with the participants.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah.
But so, they couldn't see the dialogue box.
Okay.
Just finish.
Okay, well...
Sorry.
No, that's okay. So I hope everyone got something out of the webinar presentation, and thank you again, Adrienne from the Speakers Practice, for letting me come.
Thank you.